Hello everyone. This show is brought to you as a courtesy of Raj Malhotra's IS Institute, Chandigarh. By means of this show, I, Ayush Gupta, cover for you on a daily basis Indian Express's explained section, the Rajya Sabha debates of the Big Picture segment, and the Science Monitor by Rajya Sabha TV. Today we are going to discuss about the recently concluded Malabar exercise and what is the most important takeaway that we need to understand from it. So, the Malabar exercise that concluded on 29th, one of the chief aims of Malabar exercise is to secure freedom of navigation and ensure that trade routes are not being occupied by any power. And so therefore, freedom of navigation has come up as a very important issue in the geopolitics. So in order to understand this very topic, not only we are going to learn about the freedom of navigation concept, but also how the laws of the seas work and what are the issues dealing with it. For this, in order to start with, we need to understand what is the actual structure of our coastline. So, whenever we approach the coastline, the land does not end almost sudden. There is a slight slope and it gets slowly and slowly submerged in the ocean. So, in this very manner, supposedly, like this is the land, and from here the ocean starts. So, over here, this land will slowly be submerged into the ocean's water. However, the continuity of the landmass does not end. This will still form part of the landmass, and therefore, in a manner, there will be a certain portion which is submerged in the sea, which is part of the landmass of the country, whichsoever it is. Then, this continuous landmass that is connected to the main landmass is known as continental shelf. And there will be a point when there is going to be a shelf break and there is going to be subsidence of this land almost suddenly. This point is known as shelf break, and this slope of subsidence is known as continental slope. And from here, the seabed is going to start and it is known as abysmal plains. So, basically, this happens because of the convergence of tectonic plates. All this structure is a development because of convergence or divergence of tectonic plates. So, this is with respect to the structure of the sea line or the seabed. Now, let us first understand as to why oceans are so important and what is the entire concept behind oceans. In which category do oceans fall? For this, we need to understand the concept of global commons. So, what are global commons? Global commons are those areas and those natural assets over which not a single country can claim its complete right. So, basically, these are shared spaces over which all the countries basically share their rights. For example, Antarctica, which is our biggest landmass in the southern side of the globe, is also declared as a global common, and so is space. And in order to use global commons in an appropriate manner, there's got to be consensus between the participants or between the stakeholders. In this very manner, ocean has also been considered as a global common. Now, what is the concept of tragedy of global commons? Why do we need a common minimum agreement with respect to how to manage global commons? So, basically, it is a concept of economics. What does this concept say? This concept says that when an area or a resource is shared by all the people and no individual has any sort of special right of it, at that point in time that resource gets exploited beyond the replenishment rate. Basically, वो खत्म पहले हो जाएगा and इस तरीके से खत्म हो जाएगा कि वो replenish भी ना हो सके. For example, supposedly there is a grazing ground, common village grazing ground, in which every villager brings their herd of sheep and all of those sheep graze over there. So now the aim of every villager will get that their herd gets to have the most amount of fodder, and in no time you will see that that very area will get barren before the new fodder comes up. So how to prevent this? The only manner in which to prevent this is by creating private rights, because when an individual has private right over something, at that point in time it is expected that the individual is going to manage that very area in a sensible manner and in a sustainable manner especially. For example, today we have to see the case of the fisheries all around the world. So basically what is happening is that with the coming of new technology, and since not all the fishermen of a country are having equal rights over the fishing grounds, what happens is the aim of the fishermen have become that they have to get the maximum amount of fishes. They've got to catch the maximum amount of fishes that they can get, and there is a competition between all the fishermen. So in this manner, what happens is that these fishing grounds are getting empty of the fishes because of the new technologies that they've been employed. So in this very manner, it has been expected rather that by 2050 there might be no fishing grounds even in the open oceans. So this is the tragedy of commons. This also tells us that oceans are filled with vast amount of resources, not just with respect to the fishing grounds, but oceans are home to rare earth metals. One of them, most important, is known as polymetallic nodules. Besides this, there is always the possibility of oil in the ocean. So therefore, there are reservoirs of vast amount of resources as well. Moving forward. Now, with respect to sea and trade, basically transportation today has international transportation with respect to goods has shifted to oceans. As per the report of UNCTAD, that is the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. This is a report review of maritime transport by 2018. So today about 80% of global trade by volume and 70% by value is going through sea. Now, अब यहाँ पे एक दो कॉन्सेप्ट हम समझते हैं with respect to world domination. There are two scholars, namely Walter Raleigh and Halford Mackinder. So, what does Halford Mackinder says? Halford Mackinder has given us the heartland theory. So, according to him, that if one power wants to dominate the entire world, that very power has to secure the land. And if the power has domination over the land, then that very power can dominate the world. Why did he say this thing? This is always said with respect to trade, because power flows with money basically. So in historical times, the trade routes, all the trade routes went between the Middle East. Basically the Middle East were connecting grounds from Europe to Asia. So whosoever was having control over that area, despite of that very area being extremely infertile, that very individual was the center of the power. This has been changed of late, and here comes the theory of Walter Raleigh. So according to Walter Raleigh, if one needs to dominate the world, then that very individual, that very country needs to have dominance over oceans. And why is that so? Because today you can see that the amount of trade that has been happening between oceans, if a power has basically so much potential as to impact that thing, then that power is going to be at the center of the power of the world. It is for this very reason that US today has the maximum number of fleet of ships. So what happened during colonial times, with the end of colonization and decolonization, when it started happening, various countries started coming up. So now these countries started claiming the certain sovereign rights over the sea. Earlier it used to happen, what was the extent to which one country exercised sovereign rights of the sea? The common ground was that of 3 nautical miles. So up to 3 nautical miles, the distance in sea is measured in, first of all, 3 nautical miles. 1 nautical mile equals to 1.85 kilometers. So, before colonization, at the time of the imperial rules, up to 3 nautical miles from land, यहां से हम देखते हैं, up to 3 nautical miles, sovereign right was exercised over the sea. Basically, this was based on a cannon पॉलिसी कि एक कैनन से अगर हम तोप का गोला फेंकते हैं तो वो कितनी दूर तक जाता है. सो इट वाज समवेयर 3 नॉटिकल माइल्स. सो बेसिकली अगर यहां पे कोई शिप एक गोला फेंकेगी तो लैंड पे ना गिरे, बीच में रह जाए, इस हिसाब से इस चीज को बना दिया गया था. एंड दिस वाज ओबेड, दिस वाज फॉलोड बाय एवरीवन थ्रू आउट द, दिस वाज एन अनसेड अनरिटन रूल, बट इट वाज फॉलोड बाय एवरीवन. हाउएवर, with the happening of decolonization and coming up of new countries and the starting of neo-colonialism, different countries started having and claiming different sovereign rights, different extent of sovereign rights. There were certain countries, most of the countries then started exerting sovereign rights up to 12 nautical miles from their baseline, from where the land ends, starts getting submerged in sea. There were yet another countries who were actually claiming sovereign rights with respect to 200 nautical miles. So sovereign rights का basically मतलब क्या है? Sovereign rights would mean that whatsoever rights that the country has its own territory, it is going to exercise on the sea. So with respect to entry and exit, that very country is going to sea. With respect to the airspace over above that very area, that is also going to fall under the authority of the country. For that very matter, even the airspace, a large part of it, forms part of global common. So, in order to remedy this thing and to see that this does not develop into major conflicts between countries and competing rights started coming from countries, there was a need felt of a convention, of a treaty with respect to the sea. And due to this, the result was UNCLOS, that is the United Nations Convention on Law of Seas. It was signed in 1982, came into force in 1994 with the ratification by 60 members. So, UNCLOS ने 3 अथॉरिटीज को डिफाइन किया, नई अथॉरिटीज बनाई गई. एक थी इंटरनेशनल ट्राइब्यूनल फॉर द लॉ ऑफ सी, second International Seabed Authority, and Commission on the Limits of Continental Shelf. So basically UNCLOS is a comprehensive law that defines all the rights, liabilities, responsibilities of the country when the sea starts from their mainland, right from the point where the land gets submerged into the sea. And roughly today it has 164 members. Just a second, bear with my handwriting. Today it has 164 members plus European Union as its part. The US played a major role into securing that this treaty gets signed. However, what is ironical is that it was not able to get this passed in the Senate, ratified by the Senate, as Republicans in US are basically against it. However, the popularity of this treaty and the acceptance of this treaty by the US can be seen from the very aspect that all the successive regimes, all the successive governments have actually tried and enforced this treaty. However, still there are certain things which are not in tune on part of even US's actions with respect to this thing. So now let us see as to how this treaty has divided the sea and the rights and liabilities with respect to it. So सबसे पहले हम बात करेंगे टेरिटोरियल सी की. सो टेरिटोरियल सी पहला पोर्शन होएगा जब आपकी लैंड सबमर्ज होती है पानी के अंदर. अब टेरिटोरियल सी कहां तक एक्सटेंड करेगी? टेरिटोरियल सी एक्सटेंड करेगी 12 नॉटिकल माइल्स तक. ओके, सो 12 नॉटिकल माइल्स तक टेरिटोरियल सी एक्सटेंड करेगी. टेरिटोरियल सी का मतलब क्या है? इसका मतलब यह होएगा कि अगर ये टेरिटोरियल सी है, इसके साथ एडजस्टेंट राइट्स हैं हमारे पास। राइट्स क्या है? सॉवरेन राइट्स हैं। बेसिकली इस एरिया के अंदर ना सिर्फ सी में बल्कि इस एयर स्पेस पे भी हमारे सॉवरेन राइट्स होंगे। वी आर गोइंग टू रेगुलेट एज टू हु कम्स इन इट एंड हु गोज आउट ऑफ इट, या उसके ऊपर कौन से कानून लगेंगे, कौन से टैक्सेस लगेंगे। ऑल दीज राइट्स हैव बीन गिवन टू द कंट्री। सो over here, all the fishing grounds, every resources whatsoever the country wants to do, the country may do in these areas. Beyond this, we have the contiguous zone, which extends another 12 nautical miles. Now, this 12 nautical miles, what is the significance of a contiguous zone and what rights does it give? So basically, when it comes to contiguous zone, this is the area in which we can exercise our customs and certain other aspects with respect to taxation and other things, so as to see that these do not get violated as and when the ships enter into the territorial waters. For example, just a second. So, what are the rights that we have in contiguous zone? To prevent infringement of our custom, physical, immigration or sanitary laws, कोई pollution ना करे, and regulation within its territory or territorial sea. So, by using this contiguous zone, if there is a possibility that any ship might violate any of these things, then we have the right to exercise our power against them and to enforce our authority over them and even to punish these rights. However, other than that, we are not exercising sovereign rights over this very area. Basically, this area is left for us so that we have the convenience of exercising our sovereign rights in the territorial sea. जैसे कि आप देखते हैं कि in between even land borders, between two countries, there is a certain area which has been left, so that which is also called a no man's land, basically. So this is that sort of an area. However, we certainly have certain rights over this very area in order to enforce all the rights that I have already mentioned in the contiguous zones slide. So इसका मतलब क्या है? इसके साथ हमें कॉन्सेप्ट पढ़ना पड़ेगा द राइट ऑफ इनोसेंट पैसेज। अब इनोसेंट पैसेज क्या होता है? इनोसेंट पैसेज का ये मतलब है that although you are having territorial rights over here, but what if there is a ship and that wants to cross from your territorial waters? Because generally you'll see when it comes to navigation, generally जो ships हैं they also travel along near side to the coastlines because of security or because of navigational routes. So whatever navigational route is actually passing through this very area, so can those ships come in this area? So yes, UNCLOS gives them the right of innocent passage. इनोसेंट पैसेज का मतलब आप वर्ड इनोसेंट से ही समझ लीजिए कि कोई भी बदमाशी नहीं कर सकते आप बेसिकली। अब इनोसेंट पैसेज के अंदर हम देखते हैं कि क्या क्या चीजें कोई इंडिविजुअल कर सकता है या नहीं कर सकता। सो टेरिटोरियल वाटर के अंदर बेसिकली कोई भी शिप एंटर तो कर सकती है, हाउएवर उसको रेगुलेट, उसकी एंट्रेंस एंड उसके एग्जिट को रेगुलेट कर सकता है द सॉवरेन नेशन हु इज हैविंग राइट ऑफ दैट थिंग। Those ships, अगर वो military ships भी हैं, then they cannot exercise any military activity, they cannot collect any sort of an information, deep sea information, they cannot even unload or load their cargo in territorial seas, and even if there are submarines passing through them, those submarines will have to come on the surface and fly their flags. So only and only then those countries can exercise, those ships can exercise the right of innocent passage through it. It's not that the country can actually has limited their basically passage through it. However, if anything is found prejudicial to the peace and security and sovereignty of the country exercising sovereign rights over there, then that country has the right basically to deny innocent passage. So in this very manner, the country does exercises certain control over their very territorial sea, as they have the right to deny it. And then they themselves are going to be the authority who's actually going to try you for those offenses. So in this very manner, there are certain sovereign rights, material sovereign rights that one exercises over here. However, these rights can only be exercised completely. इनोसेंट पैसेज की बात कहां पे आती है? इनोसेंट पैसेज की बात आती है टेरिटोरियल वाटर्स में, अप टू 12 नॉटिकल माइल्स, नॉट इन कंटेगियस जोन. कंटेगियस जोन के ऊपर की जो एयर स्पेस है वो भी फ्री है, उसके अंदर भी किसी भी कंट्री का एयरक्राफ्ट फ्लाई कर सकता है. सो इनोसेंट पैसेज की बात आती है टेरिटोरियल सी में. उसके बाद हम आ जाते हैं ईईजेड पे. जैसे कि मैंने आपको बताया, before that, let's talk about transit passage. This is another important thing. For example, there are two countries which are so adjacent, very near to each other, and so this country will have 12 nautical miles of claim, sovereign rights. This country will have 12 nautical miles. This is one sea and this is another sea. And if one individual, one ship has to go to this very sea, then it has to travel through this very area, such as Strait of Hormuz, Malacca Strait. So these are important international routes of trade. So otherwise, what does UNCLOS says? UNCLOS says that if any country is having overlapping claims ओवर टेरिटोरियल सी विद अनदर कंट्री, की दो कंट्री कोई दोनों पास में इतनी है कि ओवरलैपिंग है, कि सपोजिटली ये 20 नॉटिकल माइल्स का ही डिस्टेंस है. हाउएवर अगर 12 चाहिए होता 24 नॉटिकल माइल्स का, अगर 12-12 दोनों कवर करने होते, देन देयर विल बी अ मीन लाइन ड्रॉन, बीच में लाइन ड्रॉ कर दी जाएगी एंड 10 इनको हो जाएगा, 10 इनका हो जाएगा. सो व्हाट हैपेंस व्हेन these countries deny passage, because they have the right to deny passage with this innocent passage in their territorial waters to other countries. What will happen to their trade? In order to prevent such a situation, a new concept was brought in by UNCLOS, which was known as the transit passage. So transit passage का मतलब ये है कि those countries who are exercising territorial rights over those waters, they cannot stop any international ship, be it warship or commercial trade ship or aircraft, to pass through that very critical area for the purpose of navigation. Although अगर कोई ऐसा रूट एग्जिस्ट करता है उसके जस्ट पास में कि जहां से जाया जा सकता है विदाउट क्रॉसिंग दोस टेरिटोरियल सीज, देन दैट वेरी कंट्री हैज टू, देन द शिप्स विल हैव टू टेक दैट वेरी रूट. हाउएवर अगर कोई अल्टरनेटिव उसी के बराबर कन्वीनियंस का अवेलेबल नहीं है, in that very scenario, transit rights have been given to countries. Transit right के अंदर सिर्फ right ये है that your passage cannot be denied the country holding territorial rights of it. Past year जब अमेरिका एंड ईरान के बीच में ज्यादा क्रिटिकल रिलेशंस हो गए थे, एंड तब ईरान had threatened that had America taken any action against its facilities, then it can also threaten to block the Hormuz Strait. If Iran did that, then that many countries said that it would be an act of war on the part of Iran, because it cannot deny the right of transit passage. So what is the difference between innocent passage and transit passage? Innocent passage can be denied, transit passage cannot be denied by the country, despite of holding sovereign rights. So this is the difference between both of them. Now, we were talking about the EEZ. So as we said that many countries had claimed rights over the seabed. Why they'll be claiming rights? Because seabeds are sources of enormous resources. So as per the UNCLOS says that every country who is having a coastline will get certain rights over the seabed, and this would be up to 200 nautical miles from the baseline. यहां से शुरू, which means up to 200 nautical miles from the land, the baseline, you will be having exclusive economic zone. Now, what is exclusive economic zone? Exclusive economic zone वह area है in which the countries are going to have the rights to use the resources, whatsoever those resources are available over there. Countries will also have the right over here to preserve the basically environment over here. So उनके पास ड्यूटी है यहाँ की मेरीन एनवायरनमेंट को प्रिवेंट करने की, और जो भी रिसोर्सेज है यहाँ पे उनको यूज करने की. However, with respect to exclusive economic zone, other than that, they do not have any other rights, and they should not interfere with the right of passage or navigation on any other activity on the part of the other country. And these areas which fall under the exclusive economic zone can also be used for military exercises and military movement of the other countries. ऐसा नहीं है कि यहां से कोई एयरक्राफ्ट कैरियर यूएस का निकल रहा है और यहां से प्लेन टेक ऑफ नहीं कर सकता उसका. Whereas this is a scenario in case of territorial sea. टेरिटोरियल सी में वो टेक ऑफ नहीं कर सकता. यहां से भी कर सकता है वो टेक ऑफ अगर वो करना चाहे तो कंटेगियस जोन से, प्रोवाइडेड इट डज नॉट वायलेट द लॉ स्पेसिफाइड, द राइट स्पेसिफाइड अंडर यून क्लॉज विद रिस्पेक्ट टू कंटेगियस जोन. नाउ एंड बियॉन्ड दिस 200 nautical miles will start the high seas. High seas is those areas in which it is the global common, it is open to everyone. However, with respect to resources that are in the high seas, अब high seas के resources के बारे में क्या होएगा? तो शुरुआत में मैंने आपको बताया था कि उन क्लॉज में 3 अथॉरिटी बनी, उसके अंदर एक अथॉरिटी थी इंटरनेशनल सीबेड अथॉरिटी. सो अब उसमें क्या होगा, जो हाई सीज के अंदर रिसोर्सेज है, इट्स नॉट दैट एवरीवन कैन कम एंड एक्सप्लॉइट दोस रिसोर्सेज. Every country, if it intends to explore certain resources over there, it has to take permission from this authority, and only then that very country can actually use those areas or use those resources. So this is an independent authority with respect to them. Besides this, exclusive economic zone जिसकी लिमिट अप टू 200 नॉटिकल माइल्स है, क्या ये एक्सटेंड करी जा सकती है? बेसिकली 200 नॉटिकल माइल्स भी इसको लिमिट क्यों दी गई? दे सेड दैट अप टू मैक्सिमम वी कैन से कि आपका जो आइडिया है इसके बिहाइंड ये राइट देने का, कि कंट्रीज ये कहती हैं कि हमारा जो लैंड है, दिस कॉन्टिनेंटल शेल्फ एक्सटेंड्स अप टू 200 नॉटिकल माइल्स या फिर इससे ज्यादा भी. So they said that you need to actually prove कि आपका लैंड की शेल्फ ब्रेक आपका 200 नॉटिकल माइल से पहले तो नहीं आ गया. अगर शेल्फ ब्रेक आ गया तो आपके लैंड तो खत्म हो गया. सो विच मीन्स आपके पास वो राइट नहीं होना चाहिए. सो एक यून क्लॉज के अंदर जब नेगोशिएशन चल रही थी तो एक कंसेंसस ये बना कि ओके, इररिस्पेक्टिव ऑफ द फैक्ट कि आपने ये प्रूव किया है कि नहीं किया कि आपका कॉन्टिनेंटल शेल्फ इतना एक्सटेंड कर भी रहा है या नहीं कर रहा, सभी जो कोस्टल कंट्रीज है, दे विल बी गिवन द राइट ओवर अबाउट 200 नॉटिकल माइल्स ऑफ डिस्टेंस फ्रॉम देयर बेसलाइन. बेसलाइन इज द लाइन जहां पे ये लैंड खत्म होता है, एंड अप टू 200 नॉटिकल माइल्स जो रिसोर्सेज हैं उस पे आपका एक्सक्लूसिव राइट होगा. एक्सक्लूसिव राइट ये है, इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि जरूरी नहीं है कि आप उससे एक्सप्लॉइट भी करें, बट आप या तो उसे वैसे रखने देना चाहें या फिर कोई और कंट्री आके एक्सप्लॉइट नहीं कर सकती आपकी एक्सक्लूसिव इकोनॉमिक जोन में. इट इज यू हु इज गोइंग टू गिव राइट टू अनदर. सो एज वी ऑल नो दैट साउथ चाइना सी के अंदर द इंटायर साउथ चाइना सी इज डिस्प्यूटेड विद रिस्पेक्ट टू देयर कंपेटिंग क्लेम्स ऑफ exclusive economic zones between different countries who are bordering South China Sea. So जब इंडिया वियतनाम में जाके कोई एक्सप्लोरेशंस करता है तब चाइना इसलिए ऑब्जेक्शन उठाता है दैट बिकॉज चाइना इज हैविंग कंपेटिंग क्लेम्स ओवर दैट वेरी एरिया, एंड इन अ मैनर इफ इंडिया गोज एंड एक्सप्लोर्स एनीथिंग इन एग्रीमेंट विद वियतनाम, then what happens is that it is in a manner reinforcing the fact that Vietnam has sovereignty over it. So, this, although there's another provision in UNCLOS that this continental shelf can be extended up to maximum 350 nautical miles. ये 150 नॉटिकल माइल्स तक का आपको उसके ऊपर और राइट मिल सकता है। वो कब मिल सकता है? जब आप ओशन की अच्छी तरीके से मैपिंग करेंगे एंड एज पर द स्टैंडर्ड्स व्हिच हैज बीन फिक्स्ड बाय द UNCLOS, आप उसको प्रूव करेंगे कि यस, योर कॉन्टिनेंटल शेल्फ इज एक्चुअली एक्सटेंडिंग बियॉन्ड 200 nautical miles, then you are going to have the right over that very area. एंड इसके रिस्पेक्ट के अंदर जो अथॉरिटी है वो है कमीशन ऑन द लिमिट्स ऑफ द कॉन्टिनेंटल शेल्फ. सो दिस इज द अथॉरिटी जो कि थर्ड अथॉरिटी है यहां पे UNCLOS के अंदर, विच इज गोइंग टू डिसाइड कि आपके कॉन्टिनेंटल शेल्फ को क्या वो 300-350 नॉटिकल माइल्स तक पूरा आपको वो 150 एक्स्ट्रा नॉटिकल माइल दे या ना दे. एंड दिस इज द अथॉरिटी which is also going to evaluate your claim and help you into making your claim as well. Now, this first authority, that is the International Tribunal for Law of Seas, ये वो अथॉरिटी है कि कोई भी जब डिस्प्यूट होएगा विद रिस्पेक्ट टू कंपेटिंग क्लेम्स, विद रिस्पेक्ट टू UNCLOS, विद रिस्पेक्ट टू सी ओशंस, then this is the tribunal which is going to decide over it, and this tribunal's basically verdict will be final. There was a dispute between Philippines, Vietnam and China. Vietnam and Philippines won that thing against competing claims. However, China did not obey this thing. Because international law के अंदर हम जानते हैं कि सबसे बड़ी चीज होती है enforcement की. International law को enforce कराने के लिए we do not have an authority. So what is US trying to do? That we'll get to know as to how US is trying to enforce this international law. So this is with respect to EEZ. अब हम बात करेंगे freedom of navigation की. Now we can understand properly as to what is freedom of navigation. Let us just read this entire thing. Freedom of navigation is a principle of customary international law that ships flying the flag of any sovereign state would not suffer interference from other states apart from exceptions provided in international law. कि कोई भी ships जो कि एक देश का flag support कर रही हैं, they will not find any interference in their right to navigate through the oceans. So ये customary international right है. However, क्या ये जो freedom है ये unfettered है, ये complete है? No, this freedom has different meanings given by UNCLOS in different areas. कि टेरिटोरियल सी के अंदर आपके पास सिर्फ इनोसेंट पैसेज है. नेविगेशन की तो फ्रीडम है, लेकिन कितनी फ्रीडम है आपके पास? वो है टेरिटोरियल सी में सिर्फ इनोसेंट पैसेज है, इसको ब्लॉक किया जा सकता है. जहां पे ट्रांजिट पैसेज हो जाता है, कॉन्सेप्ट मैंने आपको समझा दिया. ट्रांजिट पैसेज के अंदर यह बनाया गया है कि यहां पे आपका राइट तो नहीं वॉयलेट किया जा सकता ऑफ पैसेजिंग, बट आपके लिए रूट एक तो डिफाइन कर सकती है वो कंट्री कि भैया इस रूट से निकल जाइएगा. सेकंड चीज, एक्सपीडिशियसली आपको वहां से निकलना होगा. आप कोई एक्टिविटी नहीं करेंगे वहां पे, आपको बस आए और निकलिए यहां से. नाउ इन एक्सक्लूसिव इकोनॉमिक जोन जब आपकी बात करी जा रही है, एक्सक्लूसिव इकोनॉमिक जोन में आप आ जा सकते हैं, लेकिन आप यहां के रिसोर्सेस नहीं यूज कर सकते, आप यहां की मेरीन लाइफ को नहीं यूज कर सकते. क्यों? क्योंकि इसका सॉवरेन राइट, इसके ऊपर जो राइट है वो दे दिया गया है जो कंट्री है जो कि एडजेसेंट लगती है उसको दे रखा है. अब हाई सीज के अंदर सभी को खुली छूट है, लेकिन यहां पे भी क्या है, यहां पे किसी को अगर एक्सप्लोर करना है जो नीचे समान है, जो कि कॉन्टिनेंटल शेल्फ हुए या फिर अबेसमल प्लेन्स हुए, उसे इंटरनेशनल सी बेड अथॉरिटी से परमिशन लेनी पड़ेगी. सो in this very manner, navigation is not truly free. There is no true freedom of navigation as such, and it would mean different things in different areas. Now, let us see what is the dispute with respect to freedom of navigation. अब कॉन्टेक्स्ट समझते हैं। जैसे कि मैंने आपको ऑलरेडी बता दिया कि हर एक डिफरेंट एरिया के अंदर अलग अलग आपके पास राइट है नेविगेशन के, लिमिटेड है आपके राइट्स। सो जिस टाइम पे यूनक्लॉस बेसिकली की नेगोशिएशन हो रही थी, उस टाइम पे दो क्लेम्स थे। एक उन कंट्रीज का क्लेम था जो कि नई नई बनी थी, एंड एक मैरीटाइम अर्स्टवाइल मैरीटाइम पावर्स ब्रिटेन, फ्रांस, अमेरिका, इनका कॉन्सेप्ट था। जो नई कंट्रीज थी उन्होंने ये कहा कि सर हमारे पास सॉवरेन राइट होएगा ओवर एक्सक्लूसिव इकोनॉमिक जोन, एंड उन क्लॉज के अंदर आप हमारे ऊपर कुछ लिमिटेशंस लगा सकते हैं। सो बेसिकली अल्टीमेट राइट हमारे पास होएगा, हमारा ये कहना था, और कोई थोड़ी बहुत आप लिमिटेशंस लगा सकते हैं, जैसे कि पैसेज का राइट दे देंगे हम आपको, ठीक है, अगर आप हमसे परमिशन लेके आएंगे तो। वेयर एज मैरीटाइम पावर्स क्या कह रही थी उस टाइम की? मैरीटाइम पावर्स ने कहा कि नो, नथिंग है डूइंग, आपको हम राइट्स देंगे इसके अंदर, बट सॉवरेन राइट कोई नहीं होएगा, जैसे कि आपको हम रिसोर्सेज के राइट्स दे देते हैं। सो ये था डिस्प्यूट। व्हाट वाज द रेजोल्यूशन? सो इन यूनक्लॉस कहीं पे भी इंटरनेशनल वाटर्स को डिफाइन नहीं करता है फॉर दैट वेरी मैटर। यूनक्लॉस ने एक ईईजेड की अलग ही कैटेगरी बना दी। दिस ईईजेड कैटेगरी डिड नॉट एग्जिस्टेड बिफोर यूनक्लॉस। सो ईईजेड एक अलग कॉन्सेप्ट बनाया गया जिसके अंदर यह कहा गया कि 200 नॉटिकल माइल्स तक आपका कोई सॉवरेन राइट नहीं होएगा, बट आपको वहां के रिसोर्सेस पे राइट दे दिया, एंड जो बाकी सारी कंट्रीज हैं उसके पास वहां पे अपनी एक्टिविटीज को एक्सरसाइज करने का, एक्सप्लोरेशन वो भी कर सकते हैं, लेकिन वहां पे वो उस चीज को, रिसोर्स को यूज नहीं कर सकते। बेसिकली अपनी मिलिट्री शिप्स लेके आ सकते हैं, जा सकते हैं, उस पर कोई रोक टोक नहीं होगी। सो दिस वाज द कॉमन मिनिमम थिंग दैट वाज रीच्ड अपॉन बाय UNCLOS। हाउएवर जब हम यूएस की बात करते हैं, यूएसए ऑल्दो played a very important part in negotiating this thing. However, यूएसए के अंदर क्या बात थी, यूएसए ने इसको ratify नहीं किया because of political reasons over there. So, USA says, as per USA, beyond 12 nautical miles, as per their handbook of Navy's handbook, beyond 12 nautical miles, everything is international waters, which means no one can limit any sort of right after the 12 nautical miles of territorial waters, which means जो certain हमारे पास थोड़े बहुत यहां पे हम restrictions लगा सकते हैं contiguous zone में, या फिर exclusive economic zone के अंदर कोई भी restrictions नहीं लगेंगी. So, which is why the concept of EEZ and contiguous zone is somewhat missing in their definition. Now, what is the dispute now? Although even the concept is missing in their definition, still it is not that they're totally against it, and they're in turn only trying to enforce it, enforce the UNCLOS. The dispute lies in varying definitions and interpretation of UNCLOS and application of its basically provisions. For example, English के अंदर जब हम बात करते हैं, there is hardly any difference between freedom and right. These things are basically used interchangeably. However, when we come to other countries and other languages, this is not so. Let me give you an example how it varies. So what happens is, in Indonesia and Philippines, basically they do not like the word, the freedom of navigation at all, because they say that this is an affront to our sovereignty. With respect to Indonesia, Indonesia की language है Bahasa. Bahasa में freedom और right के दोनों अलग अलग meaning है. Freedom को कहा जाता है kebesaans and right को कहा जाता है हक. Freedom means that is completely free without any obligations. But whereas right according to them means that if I am giving you a right, then I in turn have the right to put limitations over that very thing, those rights. So, in their language and in their interpretation, it is somewhat different than what might have UNCLOS envisioned, or that what might others say that UNCLOS implies. In this very manner, countries have different claims and different interpretations with respect to EEZ and their rights. Recently, USA also conducted freedom of navigation operation in Indian Ocean, and Indian law with respect to EEZ said that the country military ship, any of the military ship that is entering into our EEZ, that needs to inform us. US said that this is not in line with UNCLOS and basically we do not need to inform you. And freedom of navigation operation basically US का एक flagship operation है जिसके अंदर it ensures that UNCLOS is actually applied and accepted by all the countries. However, so इसके अंदर definition हर एक country की vary करती है. Now, let's come to the dispute, the major thing between South China Sea. Now, South China Sea को जब हम देखते हैं तो ये देखिए, this is a very important map. Now, in this very map, we can see the competing claims. This is the entire South China Sea, which is surrounded by all the countries such as Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, Vietnam, China, Brunei was also there. ठीक है? And if we see, and if every country claims their own exclusive economic zone, for example, this is the EEZ that Vietnam claims. This is the EEZ basically. Vietnam's EEZ. This is Malaysia's EEZ. This is overlapping somewhere over here. Vietnam's. Then Brunei's basically. This is Brunei's exclusive economic zone. Again overlapping with what Vietnam claims. Then over here we have the Philippines exclusive economic zone. And now with respect to China, China का concept अलग है with respect to claiming exclusive economic zone. So UNCLOS के अंदर एक और concept भी दे रखा है, that is with respect to historical claims. UNCLOS ये कहता है कि yes, if there are two countries, we have told you that territorial waters extend to up to 12 nautical miles and 200 nautical miles तक extend करता है exclusive economic zone. However, when there are two countries and उनके बीच में कोई treaty हो रखी है या कोई arrangement हो रही है या historically उनके बीच में rights ऐसे बटे हुए हैं that one country exercises more right than the other country, then also we will recognize that very thing. So China का एक middle kingdom का concept था जिसके अंदर China was the one जिसके आगे पीछे ये सारे areas tribute देते थे. So China exercised this right over this entire area. So China says हमारे historical claim है and this is known as 9 dash line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. ये सारा area हमारा हुआ exclusive economic zone का. And now this is the entire dispute with respect to the South China Sea. Now why is it a dispute? Because as I said that who is going to command domination of the world? The one who is going to command domination over oceans. And South China Sea के अंदर लगभग international trade का more than 1/3 trade passes through South China Sea. And which is why this area becomes extremely important. On the second count, various countries are having different interpretation with respect to EEZ and the sort of rights they exercise over it. So, if this is not brought in conformity, then any country which ultimately secures right over this very area is going to be governing a major chunk of international trade, which is why this area becomes extremely critical. Now, USA wants, and one of the main issue of Quad is that they have to ensure freedom of navigation in this very area. So, which is why regular operations of freedom of navigation are conducted in this very area, and it is shown to China. Basically, the freedom of navigation operation which was done in Indian Ocean, although it has been done quite a long time, हर साल ये होता है. There are almost roughly about 14 such operations which have already been taken place in past years, but no such statement is basically launched, given by the USS Navy. This time they released a statement. Basically, it was said that it was aimed at China to show them that their freedom of navigation operations is not aimed against China and is not some muscle flexing, but they are trying to ensure that a principle exists and a principle applies. This very sea leaves very little area for the international waters, for high seas basically. If EEZ is going to be seen, then basically this entire area, which is a transit route for about more than 1/3 of international trade value, then in that very respect, there's hardly any high seas over here. Now, what is the equation of these countries which are having disputes of their exclusive economic zone with China? Are they completely with America or are they not? What we have seen in the past is that these countries like Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, these countries are also not completely with America. Why is that so? Because what America is proposing is that they need to adhere strictly to their interpretation of UNCLOS, whereas these countries say that they have different interpretation of UNCLOS. If they are going to depend upon America as the net security provider in that very region, then they need to yield to America also. And on the counter, there is always an option from China that they can settle down this dispute on table by sitting with one another. So basically, the entire geopolitics of this very area is very complex, and different countries are weighing their interests with respect to aligning with one power or the other and how to achieve this very area, how to achieve consensus with this respect to issue, because this area is also home to a lot of natural resources. Besides this, one very important point is that freedom of navigation ke operations are basically with respect to securing the rights of military operations throughout the seas. However, with respect to exploiting the resources, it does not do anything. And which is why these countries also feel that although they just do not want the right of passage, but they also want the right to resources beneath those areas because of their rich resources. So this is the entire conundrum with respect to freedom of navigation, the entire dispute of freedom of navigation with respect to South China Sea. I advise you to listen to this entire lecture and do not follow the start reading. I am also attaching this very PPT presentation along with this lecture for your convenience, and by this we are going to this covers up the main aspect from that we need to derive from the Malabar exercise and what it tries to secure. Because if we have to succeed in the examination, we do not have to just look upon what are the things in front of us, but we have to also see the things which are not in front of us. So that will be all for today from my side. Thank you and have a nice day.